This is the Rushmore Show where it's all about your top four and nothing more. Andy, we're here. It's another week. We're finishing up nostalgia. Only 2 episodes left today and Monday, which is crazy. We haven't done a Monday show since last year, literally. And that's coming up this Monday. And so I'm excited, man. Nostalgia. This is a real personal one today.
Yeah.
And hopefully some folks are jumping in and kind of here. But as I was planning this one, I didn't know if I wanted to go hyper personal or I wanted to go like non. So I kind of am in the middle. Anybody that's seen the thumbnail and looked at the title today, we're doing your childhood heroes. That's kind
Yeah.
of big. Kind of big. What do you think?
Well, I'm excited about this one because, like you said, we can go all kinds of different routes. Not only is the idea of what is a hero kind of up for debate, but what is childhood? Like, where do we, that factors into some of our criteria here, too. I do want to give a shout out. Fat Boys Gaming and Nonsense and Robert Springs are in the house. Welcome.
Already up in this thing. Look at that. What's up, everyone? Hope y'all are doing well tonight. Smash that like. Let's do it. And Robert Springs, man, it's always good to see you, Robert. See you in our friends community. So welcome. Hey, we have some guys. Hopefully they'll kind of show up later. We are already gearing up for the next series, and the next series is sports. And if you've been around us long enough, you know one of our biggest passions is sports. And I just want to show you guys some of the things that we got coming up. Man, I have been working to try and nail us out some really good guests, Andy. And let me show the masses what we have happening. So in September, this is probably October, that's coming up. Yes, it is. I knew it. They're backwards. In September, we got Who Dat Pat.
Nice.
What a cool name. And he's going to go, because, we're Saints guys. We're going to go Saints all time. We got our old friend Dylan Thibodeau coming in and doing some college coaches. Paul Teagarden, the man with the master plan. He's the number one as far as been on the show the most. He is coming on for obscure sports, things you'd see on the Ocho, if you will. And we're going to go with Chris Gordy. He's going to talk about the best college football players of all time. All time. Man, that one's going to be fun and extremely hard. Because, it's college football players. So we're going with college. And some of those guys are Hall of Famers, and some of them aren't. Some of them became busts in the NFL. That's going to be a fun show. Then we're flipping on over to our October episodes. We got Zach's Collectibles, Cards and Collectibles, and his garden. And he's going to come on for football rivalries. We got Paul Roser and Brian Schwartz. That's my buds. They came on last year. We're going to do Baseball Hall of Fame snubs. Vintage Sport Flips. Go check those guys out. NBA Dunkers. And Boggs is going to come on down and do sports stadiums. Now, this is like, he was like, man, I really like this one because I've been to a lot of games and I love stadiums. And so that's going to be a fun show. Andy, I'm excited about sports. With that being said, we are already starting to book, right, sports, and we finished, but we're looking forward ahead. November and December is food. So let me just throw this out there. If you want to be on the show, especially for a food episode, drop us a comment, hit us up in Instagram. All that stuff is coming down below. Check us out on the Discord, whatever. And after that, we have video games. Video games is completely booked unless, a hurricane happens or something. I don't know. We've got way more people in video games than we possibly need. So we're going to double up, hopefully, and get some really cool things going. What you think, Andy?
Yeah, I'm excited about everything that's to come. It's super awesome. I want to say, hey, Kenneth Bird is in the house again.
Yeah.
Been hanging out for a while, man. Appreciate you being
here. What's the frequency, Kenneth?
Speaking of college football, though, I'm going to attempt, when it comes to college football, to be as unbiased as possible. You know, I mean, just there's times where I have a thirst, and but I will tell you, I will be as unbiased as possible. I will try to diversify my picks as much as possible. Excuse me, sorry, I'm slightly parched right now. It tastes like victory. But you know, that's what we're gonna do. And Dylan is
I
hopping.
hope you relish in that victory because
Hey, it's
I
gonna be
do
great, man.
remember
I
before
think that,
Steven showed up, and even that first few years, that it was quite a desolate time.
well, LSU's been living in a desolate time since 19, so we're
Excuse me. Says what? I
exquisite
think I
baking powder.
believe we've kind of had some retribution with you in the last few years. So let's just.
Hasn't resulted in a natty since 19.
Oh, I'm dropping a comment. Who that Pat?
Who
Who's
that Pat's in the house?
show? I just shouted you out. Who dat is in the house? He's coming on for All Time Saints. Bud Files is in the house. Hello, peoples. What's up? Who dat Pat? What's up? Yes. Everybody, while you're here, let me give you guys all wrenches if you don't already have them. Who dat? I see you don't have one. Go and follow, like, subscribe, all of the people. I'm throwing those around. And we've got a great show for you today. If you have seen us, we have been on the con.
He says LSU, baby. So I had to.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's coming. So speaking of LSU, baby, right? Last night, I was watching Vintage Sport Flips. Who's going to be on the show? And they were doing greatest programs of all time, like the greatest college football programs of all time.
I like that.
They do it draft style like we do Benjamins. Okay, so you pick one, it's gone. Obviously, your Alabama.
It has to be there. It's a top one.
No, it went in the top 3. It was top 3, and it was picked. But after that, Keith went downhill like fast. Like he took Yale at number 2. I mean, like
academic programs or
no football program. Football. I mean, they haven't won football since 1918. But I mean, like, yeah.
Wow.
So, but Andy, very very smart fella, took LSU in the 2 spot. So
better program. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right. That's debatable. We're not on that topic. It's okay. Well, hey, look, before we scare everyone away, or maybe I do when I'm talking about Alabama a bunch, let's get into our topic for tonight. So we already mentioned childhood heroes. It's going to be a ton of fun. We got a great friend, first-time visitor on the show. He's been on a short or 2, right? 2 shorts, 1 short, 2 short.
Get in where you fit in with the 2 short.
Yeah, there you go. And so I'm excited for this. So, Kirk, are you ready?
Let's do some. What are we doing? We're doing childhood hero. Let's get it. I don't even have the video ready. I'm out doing something else. Like, hey, let's roll it back. Let's roll back that beautiful bean footage. Hey, everybody, let's do childhood heroes for 1,000.
Well, here we go. Childhood heroes tonight is our topic. If you're in the chat, make sure you're dropping your childhood heroes. We're going to talk in our criteria of how we narrowed that down. It could be personal. It could be somebody in pop culture. It could be anything, right? Any kind of thing. It is your list. It's
Welcome Zach to the house. Zach's also going to be on the show. Yep. Football rivalries.
Yeah, I love that. So put them in the chat. But Kirk, let's introduce and bring on our friend tonight. Who we got coming to talk about childhood heroes?
Yeah, so I'm kind of late today. That's why we pushed back. Thank you guys for coming to hang out. School started, so I don't have any of my props ready, but they're kind of like back right. There's one right over my head, and there's some more back there. We're bringing on our Funko Pop guy from the convention. I when I first started conventions, I was kind of like Funko here, Funko there, get one here, get one there. Now it's like, hey, Sergeant Slaughter, he hooked me up. He's hooked me up with the NWO. This is my guy. This is Cannon's guy, my son. This is Andy's guy. We're in discussion that Andy likes to take him out of jail. I keep him in jail. That's just how we do things. And so we're going to welcome Bayou, Geek, Collectibles to the house. We were supposed to have both of them, but today we are blessed with Dustin Dufresne and Keith Blaylock. We had to move some things. Gosh, I mean, life is pretty crazy right now, and Keith wasn't able to come and join us. So, hey, Dustin, thanks for still jumping on and making it. Man, you've been a great friend at the conventions, and we've loved to get to know you. Every time we swing by, one of our funniest shorts ever was hanging out with you. And one of our best watch shorts was the other one. But hey, man, tell all tens of people that are here, what are you doing? Where can they find you? What's this little biz you got going on, and what conventions are you going to be at?
And also, just a real quick shout out. Thank you for the Master P Funko Pops. That was way to go.
Make them say,
Yeah, so thank y'all. Yeah, so this was this started out as just a hobby of mine. It really still is a hobby. I've always liked collecting things, and started getting into these. Really kind of went out there and was doing this more just to kind of trade up with people. But then I started my first con. I did one of the retro cons over. I think that was when Davey was still having them in a gym in Shriever, and it was like, man, this is awesome. Not really about sales or anything like that, but just being able to help people actually add certain items that they're looking for to their collection. So I don't have a lot of people ask me every show. It's like, man, do you have a storefront? I run this out of my house. I do conventions, and we started kind of dabbling on doing sales on Whatnot, which is kind of like a online eBay live. So next big convention coming up is going to be in September. I'll be at Louisiana RetroCon in Morgan City. Great convention. If anybody that's on hasn't been to that, I would highly suggest taking the trip and go and check that one out. And I got a couple of smaller ones, like some library conventions, and then some festivals. That's the first time I've done a festival. And then I'll be at STCC again in November, and then Pelicon in January. And I think that's all I have booked up right now.
Yeah, nice. Well, Kirk's showing them off. What you got there?
So here are a few that I've gotten. Here's the Sergeant Slaughter. We got that autoed at the convention. If you haven't seen that already, there it is. This was a gift, and we're from New Orleans. This is old New Orleans rap there, but make them say right there, Master P. And that was a gift, man. That was a gift. Thank you. Yeah. That's cool. And this was the first one I purchased from you. Yep. And that was the new world order. And there they are, man. There they are. Check that out.
Beautiful inbox. I love it.
Dude, got to. Andy is removable. Like, see, I mean, I got this one in the case, but I want to get some more cases. I need a case for this one for sure.
I can get you one.
I'm not even going to try to assert my position on should they be in the box or out of the box, because I know that I'm wrong. I understand I'm wrong when it comes to collecting, but I'm a kid at heart. And I just want to take everything. Hey,
Dustin, here's a order for you, and I mean, I'm willing to pay for it. I just haven't looked it up, but I need one for the halfway bigger size. I need a case for that one, because that's the one that we got from Austin St. John for free. The red Power Ranger.
Yeah. Send me a picture of it.
What's that?
It should be probably like the 6-inch one, but send me a picture of it.
I'll show you right now.
Yeah.
Click me off. You two hang out.
Anyway, so this is a ton of fun. But hey, look, Dustin, while we're waiting for him to pull up this thing, let's just talk criteria let's start getting into our Rushmores tonight.
Okay.
We typically let the guests kind of pick the topic within the topic. I mean, our big
Okay.
topic for the 2 months is nostalgia. We say it all the time. It's kind of our cheat months because that fits almost anything in it, right?
All right, guys, I'm back real quick. And since I was there, I grabbed Cannons. Cannon got so it's the matching. These are the 2 Sergeant Slaughters, Wrestling, and G.I. Joe. And we got them both signed. And so our first convention, Austin St. John was there. We got a short with him. And Cannon, my son, just walked up and he was kind of touching this. And he goes, "You want it?" And he was like, yeah. And he said, "It's a little messed up, but you can have it because it's messed up." So this is it. And this,
I'm gonna write this down.
This little piece is messed up, a little bent, but it's awesome because he like literally said, "Here, it's yours." And he didn't sign it because you had to pay for that. And we ended up getting I messed up on that. I should have gotten to sign it. But next time he's around, I'm getting him to sign it. So yeah, so there it is.
Well, so I was saying here too, though, we're going to start getting into this. So we give you you get to pick the topic or whatever, but let's just talk. The first thing we do before we get into our top 4, Dustin, I'm interested to get, what is your criteria? How did you go about this list? How did you maybe kind of narrow it down? What were you thinking when you were putting together your list of childhood heroes?
Yeah. So, this one to me was a very, broad subject, right? One of the things that I was kind of struggling with is like, man, like if I'm picking 4, it's like, my dad and my grandpa are going to be top 2 right off the bat. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and, I may give them a personal shout out, but I figured it's like, okay, I'm going to go with video games, wrestling, movies, TVs, because, the 90s to me, I was born in 84. So, I was 6 to 16. And if you ask a 6-year-old who their hero is and a 16-year-old who their hero is, they're going to have completely different answers. So I kind of went through genres that I felt kind of shaped my life or what I liked as a kid. And then I based my list off of that. So yeah, that's kind of what I went with on this one. What I thought was really cool about it is I really did think it's like, man, this will probably be really hard for us to pick the same people, but never know.
Who knows? So let's go ahead and get into our top 4 now. Again, if you're in the chat and you have some childhood heroes that you want to share with us, put them in there. Even if it's like just dad, grandpa, I love that. I'd love to hear if it's something like that. Just give us a quick little blurb about why they're your hero. We love chatting about all this kind of stuff. This has the potential to be an emotional episode, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah. So anyway, so Dustin, let's go ahead and get you started. It's going to be Dustin first, and then Kirk, you're after Dustin, right? We don't switch things up, right? And then I
got 2 more episodes of being second, and sports you're second.
Yes. All right. So then I'll go. So Dustin. Rosie, he's our number 4. He's Roosevelt. We considered him to be the 4th most important president on the Rushmore just because of our own opinion. I don't know, but look. Somebody said hi, Dad.
Oh, look, it's my kids.
There you go.
Nice. Hey, well, look, before that happens, I see they're over on the Facebook side, and that's okay. Anybody that's over on the Facebook side can't really get to the YouTube side, but if you're on the YouTube side, anybody that's new, hit the like, hit the subscribe. But since it's some of your friends, here we go, man. Welcome to the Summit Squad, little fella. There we go. So let's just catch them up real quick. Everybody that's in the chat, got 12 of them. We're going through our top 4 of childhood heroes. You can follow along with us and give us your 4 favorite heroes. You can do it in one shot and like just post one time. Or you can follow along and keep the suspense going. And when we say our 4, you say your 4. I say my 3, you say your 3. And then we'll get to the end and we'll have some fun with some honorable mentions. But hang around with us. So, Dustin, you're up. And that's a great criteria. I kind of linger in the same way. But we call the number 4 Rosie. Here it is. And here's all 4 of them. And what's your number 4? Your Roosevelt. Your Rosie.
So my Rosie is going to be when I looked at all the topics, you know, like I said, I looked at this as certain things that shaped my life. So I'm going to go with wrestling first, right? And if you think about 90s wrestling, from a 6-year-old to a 16-year-old, my personal favorite era in wrestling was the Attitude Era. So I'm sure he's been on a bunch of your list already. But I gotta go my Rosie from wrestling, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What? Nice pick. All right. What makes him a childhood hero to you?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things with him, especially if you followed his career earlier, was he went from somebody that was a nobody to somebody that, in my opinion, saved wrestling. And then, you know, that was towards my older age, and I think just his attitude, his way to kind of stick it to the boss, and that, especially if you watch anything that he talks about now, that guy really did put his blood, sweat, and tears into that company. So, you know, when I looked at all these lists too, one of the things that I thought about was, you know, hey, who did I want to dress up for Halloween, or kind of who did you have t-shirts of? And I don't know too many people that didn't have an Austin 316 shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you want to talk about, I mean, we've obviously mentioned this. Attitude Era is my era too, of wrestling. Absolutely amazing. Stone Cold's one of the greatest to do it. But you talk that, again, we mentioned it a lot. Mark Calloway, Undertaker's podcast, he gave his top 4. He does Rushmore's too. And he did his top 4 moments in wrestling. And that promo at 1996's King of the Ring, where Austin 316 basically had its birth, was like his number 2 moment in wrestling. Yeah. Just that promo, which is just what is that? And then he gets into the what, and then you got the beer cans, and I mean, it's just, he is. And then the didn't he, who was he wrestling at a gas station or whatever? Wasn't it? Was it Booker T? I don't know. Anyway, he does these backstage matches.
Didn't he hit him with a beer in the place?
Yeah, it was in the gas station, and then the Vince McMahon
with the bedpan.
The bedpan. Yeah, this is a great pick. I love
just a shout out to Vogs18. Vogs is going to be on the show. He's our stadium guy. Welcome to the show, Vogs. Man, I'm excited to have you. And let me just jump in. It's a great pick. As far as fandom, as far as who he is, I mean, geez, he's one of the best, if not the best. To me, he's definitely, if we ever do the mountain of greatest of all time, for me, it'll be hard to keep him off, but it'd also be hard to put him on. I mean, like, he's like polarizing. He like changed the game, but there's about 12 people that I want to stuff into one mountain.
It's hard.
So the greatest of all times are always really hard for us. We try to avoid them, kind of. And as far as like the number one, but here's my one thing I want to say about Stone Cold: childhood heroes. If I'm your parents, I'm a little worried that this is your hero. You know what I mean?
DX might have been my first pick, and I kind of might have changed it from that exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so when I get into my criteria, I'll kind of mention some of those things. But yeah, I mean, Stone Cold as your hero. Now, favorite wrestler, I get it, but like hero, that's kind of scary. Role model, that's kind of where I was going with it. But yeah, I mean, love the pick. He's by far, he's so iconic that it has to be there. Yeah.
We've mentioned him, I think, on every possible wrestling show. We've had to find some way to mention him.
Yeah. I mean,
I love how Andy just like messaged from every account he has.
I did it, man. I'm trying to bump those comments up, baby.
Let's do it.
Great pick.
All right, well, I guess I'll jump in. I'll jump in. So here's my criteria. It started out like, okay, childhood heroes, and it went to a specific space immediately, and then I kind of took a right, and I started kind of like going down a list, and the list was it wasn't that it was empty, it was just different than what I had maybe wanted it to be or tried for it to be. So, Dustin, you mentioned your dad and your grandpa. Like my grandfather, I didn't really have a grandfather in my life. I did, but I didn't really know him. Like I didn't know him like that. You know what I'm saying? And then um uncles, not really. I mean, like um uh neighbor. There was a neighbor one time I thought about putting on, and he's way down on my list. He probably won't make it, but I mean, he would have been a fantastic role model for me. And so I was trying to like, what am I going to do? Well, this is the Rushmore Show, and we do have 6 kind of topics. So I kind of dug through, say, sports, music, movies, TV, video games, and I was trying to find some of the heroes that I loved in that space, and that kind of got a common theme. I don't know that all of those themes will make it, but I have somebody from almost all those, except food. I mean, Joey Chestnut maybe, but uh, there's a hero in almost all of those that I would consider. The other thing was, and I kind of said it in yours, Dustin. I tried to make this guy be like some kind of role model of something, or maybe I wanted to be like him, or like inspired me to do something, right? And in that kind of nature, more so than I was just a big fan. And not that I don't love that you're a big fan. It's just like we do these so many times. I like if I was going to do the big fan, we're probably going to have that on the show another time. And so I was just trying to kind of zone in to a specific thing of like, who were my childhood heroes? So with that being said, I'm going to jump in, and my list my top 4 is very narrow. It's very narrow, if you would say. And I was going to change it last minute, but I'm not. I'm gonna stick with this. My number 4, early '90s. I was probably a teenager at this time. I had always, for forever in my life, been a Yankees fan. Always. My dad raised me on that, and kind of like Andy being a Bama fan, most people hate him for that. Most people hate me for being a Yankees fan at one level. Now I'm a Chiefs fan and those things, but nobody likes a person when they win too much. But there was this one guy that kind of came along, and I shifted away from the Yankees for about 6 years. And my dad was really depressed, and I really just wanted to follow him. And the cool thing is, to me, he was the greatest athlete of all time. I watched the video today of Prime, Deion Sanders saying he was the greatest athlete of all time. And that's Bo Jackson. Nice. Vincent Bo Jackson. And when I was a kid, man, I looked at Vincent Bo Jackson, and he had the bat behind his head with the shoulder pads on, and he was just otherworldly to me. I changed my team to the Royals for a little bit, and I did love Frank Thomas. Frank Thomas actually had an option to be on this too. He's on my Benjamin's way down as well. But because of Frank Thomas and then Michael Jordan eventually landing over at the White Sox and Bo Jackson going there, I switched from the Royals when Bo got hurt and got picked up by the White Sox to be a White Sox fan for several years. And if you watch my greatest franchise of all time, White Sox were on it because of those guys. Bo Jackson was it for me, man. I loved him. I loved him in the video games. He's got a little bit of the video game side, the sports side. He led me to being ironically, he led me to being a Chiefs fan because I followed him as a Raider. And in the video games, I always played with him, but I couldn't beat the Chiefs. So I switched over. I've talked about that story over and over again. But at that time, I felt like he was the king of the world. I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to play multi-sports. And, man, I've collected every card. I had the starting lineups back in the day, the little figures. Those are things prior to Funko Pops, basically. So, man, I'm going to go with my number 4, my Rosie, Bo Jackson.
I mean, yeah, not many sports fans can deny this pick for sure. This is before my time, though. So I mean, he is.
So yeah, he was a absolute menace. Mid '80s, early '80s, mid '80s, coming through Auburn, playing both sports. Then in the late '80s, Raiders. Well, Tampa Bay drafted him #1, and then he denied it, went back, and Raiders ended up drafting him later and snatching him up. Raiders got him, Royals got him, and he ended up getting the hip injury early '90s, and then sat out almost like 2 years, and then tried to make a really good comeback with the White Sox, and that lasted only like 3 years, 2.5 years. It never was the same. But yeah. Let me just really quick quote this. So literally today, I'm just flipping through shorts, and Prime comes on, and they asked him, they said, Dion, who is the greatest athlete of all time? And he said, well, who's the greatest athlete of all time? You or I think Michael Jordan is what he said. Maybe. I don't remember who the other guy was. And he goes, wait a second. You're forgetting somebody. He goes, the greatest athlete of all time is Bo Jackson. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So anyways.
He said of me that I don't know Bo because it was prior to my time.
Bo Diddley, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
Commercials.
What about you, Dustin? Let me say this real quick. It's a moral in my life. I'll never put an Auburn player on any of my lists. So it doesn't matter how great they were. Cam Newton's never making a list of mine.
Well, neither I hope not.
He was also a Panther. So I mean, he really got nothing going for him.
Yeah. And I'm a Chiefs fan, and he was a Raider. So, but he did play in Kansas City for the Royals.
Yeah. Dustin, you a Bo Jackson guy?
Yeah. So man, growing up, the only sports that we really watched was my grandpa was a huge wrestling fan. So, I mean, we watched wrestling all the time.
Chance with Collectibles is in here. Welcome back, bud. Had a good time seeing you, man.
And then it was, mostly professional football. We didn't watch a lot of pro baseball, but, as I kind of started getting older and getting more into sports, baseball, I like watching my nephews play baseball. But like professional baseball, I've gone to an Astros game once. But I will say this: I know the exact video that Kurt's talking about, and you can pretty much ask anybody who one of the the best baseball player is, and Bo Jackson's name's coming up.
Yeah, he was insane. Best baseball player of all time is unfortunately never going to get the recognition, but that's Barry Bonds. I don't care what anybody says.
Well,
yeah, I thought he was Mike Trout, but that's fine. Well, he won't.
Well, I mean, you're an Angels fan, so you're going to say that. I am a Yankees fan. I could go on the litany of Yankees that were great, but Barry Bonds was another level.
Yeah. Hey, Chance with the Collectibles, thanks for hopping in. Been listening. Bo Jackson was a beast of an athlete. Yep, that's what I hear.
Yeah, Chance, man. Love having you around, man. I haven't seen your show in a minute, but everybody go follow Chance. Chance, I don't know if you have a wrench. I'm going to throw you one if you don't. And everybody can go and follow. Nope, you don't. And sending you a wrench right now. Chance, welcome to the show, buddy. 80s room, love that. Love those. Will Chamberlain, right? Will Chamberlain. That's kind of one of those things. Funny thing about Will Chamberlain, every time he comes up, everybody always talks about how he played short people, right? I'd be interested to see Wilt Chamberlain play today. And I'm sure he'd be dominant, but it's just a different game. Thanks for listening, man. All right, Andy, you're up, man.
Yeah, man. Criteria-wise for me, I did the same thing where I eliminated family members, not for any reason other than I wanted the people who were in the chat today to have some kind of idea of who I was talking about. Obviously, when it gets too personal, I definitely have heroes in my family, for sure. But if I'm picking this one, I'm kind of going along the same lines as both of you. We didn't even discuss this, but we went here. There's some of the topics that we talk about in those areas. What for me as a kid. Now, what changed it a little bit for me was I did basically up through about 12 or 13 is what I considered childhood. I know that's like, tween age or whatever. Start getting to high school, you know, you get a little bit different kind of stuff, which again, if you put that in yours, that's great. That's awesome. But just for me, it was kind of like earlier childhood type things, which would put me in that 90s era, but also right up to those early 2000s. And these were the ones who definitely had an impact on me personally in some kind of area. And my Rosie, my number 4, this is probably going to come out of left field for many people because I don't believe I've ever mentioned this guy on the show. Maybe at one point, but I really doubt that I've even shared this. And I actually have a prop to go with it. My Rosie, this little known to many people. When I was a probably a junior high-ish age, late middle school, I had this aspiration to become a chef. I wanted to cook, right? I wanted to be a chef. I had cooks in my family. I had, obviously just, home cooks and whatever. My great grandmother would cook stuff all the time. My mom, my grandma, my dad was grilling. I mean, everybody knows how to cook to an extent. Every time as a Southern Louisiana Italian family, you go to someone's house, there's way too much food there. That's kind of what I was used to growing up. And one of the chefs that I had in my family was my second cousin. And my second cousin, again, I'd bore you with all the details. She was actually the sous chef of this guy that I'm going to pick at number 4. And my Rosie is Emeril Lagasse. Emeril Lagasse. Check that auto out, right? Huh? Andrew, damn, Emeril. Now, here's why. First of all, I loved Food Network. Food Network in the 90s was just an amazing, amazing time. When I would watch it with my mom, I'd watch it, and Emeril had this live cooking show. Yep. Where, bam, that was kind of like the big deal. And it was so big during this time. And he would always cook stuff. And we never made anything that he cooked on the show. No one ever was cooking along with these people that were on these shows. Maybe people were, at least we weren't. But we were just watching it out of entertainment. I've shared before, I was a big Iron Chef fan, watching that in the 90s, watching Bobby Flay, watching a lot of the Mario Batali, like all of these guys that are just these greats when it comes to early Food Network stuff. But Emeril was always the guy. And obviously because he had the New Orleans tie-in, he was cooking Southern food. He just was great personality, obviously. But the added bonus of having my family member as his sous chef at one of those restaurants in New Orleans, she put out a cookbook endorsed by him. My great grandmother was actually in a cookbook with Emeril. There's a picture of them together. I don't know where that cookbook is. I wish I could find it. But it was called There's a Chef in My Family. It's like different family recipes that were sent in. Anyway, I was big on this. I remember it had to be 7th grade. I remember making my own cookbook of things. And the funny thing is half the things I didn't even try. Like it just sounded good. And I threw it together and I printed them for my teachers. And God forbid if they ever actually tried to cook those things. Since then, I have not. I can cook. I can do some things, right? But I married a woman who can cook a whole lot better than I can, so I don't have to. So food has always been near and dear. Emeril Lagasse, childhood hero, looked up to this guy. I even, with my mom, I remember doing this. We would cook in the kitchen together, and we would pretend like we're on TV doing a show, and I would send it to commercial. It was so weird. I mean, you're just a weird kid, but at that time, there's just so many. I wanted to be Emeril Lagasse, and that's why I had to put him on my list of childhood heroes.
Yeah, I can say this. Emeril is a cherished icon in the Southern Louisiana area. Commander's Palate, all that stuff. People loved to watch his show. The Bam, he was on the news all the time, along with several other chefs. I wasn't sure which one you were going to pick. Kind of had a feeling it was going to be a local guy for that, but you have shared several times that Andrew Ricketts is Dennis.
I love you, Dennis.
Dennis. I think we're going to have you back on food, right? I think you said you were going to maybe do that, but because we got sports next. That's not typically your jam, but
funny thing. Let me say this real quick. I went from being an Emeril Lagasse fan to working in a kitchen with Dennis. It's totally different experience. Nothing against you, Dennis. I'm just saying it's different than him.
I do want to address a few things though, real quick. just in case they're still hanging out, and I don't want them to disappear. That 80s room, when Dion was talking about it, it was definitely not an athlete of how you played a certain game. It was just being an athlete, like fast, jump, go, run, agility, that kind of thing. Like, who was the epitome of an athlete? Not necessarily the best basketball, the best baseball, best football. Anyways, with that being said, also, hello, Retro Rob. Retro Rob is coming in January, February. We'll be booking that soon. And obviously, Chance has got a cool little comment here. Bro, you're making me hungry, talking about food. The older I get, I enjoy cooking. I'll jump into that right there. I love to cook. My wife is an amazing cook. She said it the other day. She's like, I really do think I'm a good cook. And I'm like, yeah, hello. She's amazing. She's phenomenal. But cooking was a thing when I was a kid. My mom was horrible. My dad never cooked anything. My dad didn't even own a barbecue pit. I'm terrible at barbecue pit because of this. I am terrible on the pit, dude. And that is one of those man things I can't. Andy comes over, he slaves over my pit. My wife does the pit. I don't do the pit, but I can cook, especially breakfast. I'm really good at breakfast. I love that. But I can cook lots of really cool things. I got my own recipes with a few things. And I love the cooking channel. I love that you picked this because you have mentioned several times about your journey, but you never mentioned food. So I'm glad you threw that out there. Now I know, and no one's half the battle.
G.I. Joe. I cooked wings tonight for dinner, so that was my contribution.
Now here's the thing: Andy only likes dry rub.
We'll talk about that probably in November, December.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in November.
I rather dry rub as well.
That's what I'm saying.
I need sauce. And then I need a dipping sauce too. I need sauce and sauce.
There is nothing worse than a soggy chicken skin.
That's right. Yeah,
absolutely nothing worse.
I'll go somewheres and order brisket, and I'm like, put it on the side, please, because I'd rather take a bite, and then if I want to dip it, I can. Versus it just.
Why'd you smoke it for 16 hours?
Yeah,
and then cover it in sugar sauce.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But anyway, that's for November and December. We'll talk about it.
Good pick. So we started off hot. So we're going wrestling, Stone Cold. We're going sports, Bo Jackson, and we're going food, which is awesome. Food made the channel, Emeril Lagasse. So hey, you are up next. We're starting this second round. It's TJ Jazzy Jeff, as you can see right here. That's Theodore. No, not Theodore. That is Thomas Jefferson. And you're up for number 3. It gets harder once you get in, but then it starts to get really easy usually at the top. So usually this middle round is like, who do I throw here?
So my number 2, I'm going to go to a movie section here. And this is probably going to be extremely unpopular, I believe. But as a kid, this one, goes back when I was younger. I'm sorry, I'm picking the wrong one. Scratch that. Let's reroute it. All right, so we're gonna go video games. We're gonna go video games with this.
Nice.
All right. Like this. So, I already know Kurt's a PlayStation guy. I am not. I am an Xbox fan. Okay. But when I think about the 90s and video games, and as far as what was my number one hero when it came to video games, I got to go, and I got another prop. It's not a Funko Pop, but I'm going to go with Mr. Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII.
There you go.
You threw me a freaking curveball.
So, man, I remember, and I guess when this came out, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I remember it was probably when I was in junior high. Me and 2 of my buddies, we would sit there. We had so I think the clock would top out at 100 hours maybe on this game, or it was just 99. And we would play this game all weekend, day and night that we could, go back to school, talk about how far we got in it. And this is, I mean, it's probably my number one video game as far as the storyline for it. You know, him just kind of coming up as a soldier and, you know, meeting this great group of friends and taking on Sephiroth, and just, you know, I haven't played the remake yet. I actually bought a PlayStation 5 to play the remake, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, so Cloud Strife.
All right, Kirk, I'm gonna let you talk.
So you threw me a curveball big time. You like, yeah, you like PlayStation. I'm an Xbox guy. I'm like, all right, here comes Master Chief.
Master Chief was in 2001, I believe.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, you were like, you're going Xbox things, and I was like, okay. But then, right, going back, you're rocking Cloud Strife. Now, check this out. I love that pick. And I'm glad you picked it, because he wasn't even on my list. Because for me, this was a old teenage 20-something,
right?
And so not a fan. No, I mean, I love this pick, but for me, Final Fantasy, which is one of the reasons Andy hates this. Andy's just not in this kind of stuff. The one that would have been in my childhood, they didn't have any names. They didn't have any names.
Yeah.
You made your own name. So, and like, you had to go through and build this character, and that was just too much work for Andy. So that is why I wouldn't have.
Oh, I forget. Andy doesn't like RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's at least 4 that I can mention.
Yeah.
Because we did.
We have had that episode. Yeah, beat the game 9 times. Chance. Look. Oh, thank you for. Look, let's just throw this up here. Final Fantasy VII was a game that made it for me. Playing Rebirth right now. So, Chance is playing Rebirth, and when he first started it, I was watching him like almost every night, and I was talking with him, and he gets a little. I'm not gonna say nervous or anxiety, but there was, like, he doesn't want to spoil it for people, but yet he's playing it, right? And he's like, oh, it's kind of fun to watch. But I love to watch because I don't have a newer system, so I probably won't play Rebirth. My son is on a mission, so you reminded me of the PlayStation 5. My son's on a mission with some of the things that he's doing to buy a PlayStation 5, and he's about a fifth of the way there. So once we get a PlayStation 5, I might just go sneak one of those 2 in for me. But at this moment, the highest or the newest system I have is a PS2, and I'm a retro guy, and I have the retro buy. I love this pick, Andy. You hate this pick, or not necessarily hate it.
I have nothing to talk about this pick because I just never played the game. He's probably amazing.
Yeah,
I just never was like, ooh, I'm at Blockbuster. I want to think when I play a game.
Yeah.
You can get it on your iPhone, and it actually has like cheats on there to where you can't die, and your limit's always maxed out. So like you'll run through it in a couple of hours, and just for the storyline, that game is definitely worth playing once.
I do want to go back and say also, and I was going to say it earlier, but I missed it. 80s Room says Brock Lesnar needs to be in there for talking athlete. I totally agree as far as an athlete. As a person, I can't stand the guy, but athlete, yeah, awesome. And yeah, I didn't. Well, never mind. We'll skip because that's not appropriate, and we'll just move right along. It's my turn. So, hey, look, I don't think 2 of the next 3 I don't think will be a surprise for anybody. My next one will be not necessarily a surprise, but it probably won't be anybody you know. But this one, Andy could probably peg this one right now, and probably is shocked it's not number 2. But I have it number 3. And again, Yankees fan. I'm going with my favorite player of all time, and I'm going with Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly. And he wasn't always the greatest player of all time, but for a window, he was. He was absolutely the best player in 1986, 87, 88, or 85, 86, 87. He was on a tear, and then his knees gave out on him. not only was he offense, but he was defense. He was a Gold Glove first baseman, like every time. I never played first base, but I did want to because of Don. I played third base. If you know anything about my daughter, she is a first baseman, and I love it. It's just one of those things. Donnie was. I used to try to emulate his swing. I used to try but he was lefty too. And Mr. Grand Slam, Mr. Baseball, Mr. Captain. I've seen Major League Baseball probably in the neighborhood of 40 times. I don't know, but I've seen the Yankees the most, and I've seen the Yankees the most when Mattingly was playing, and that was probably about 10 times I've seen Mattingly play. Favorite game of all time, and I mentioned this before on the show, way back in, I think it might have even been the Easter episode of our first year. We were talking baseball back then. My favorite game of all time, the Yankees were playing Andy's Angels, and Andy's Angels at that time was in this is 1991 or two. Don Mattingly had just got his 2000th hit. He had just got his 2000th hit, and he was sitting the game, and I was so mad. I went to the game. We were all the way in California, and Don Mattingly sitting the bench because he got his 2000th hit. They're just giving him a break that day, and I was heartbroken. Well, they were down 3-2, ninth inning. Wade Boggs comes up, gets a base hit, and they pinch hit for whoever was playing first base at the time. I don't remember. He was up next. I think it was like Kevin Moss or something. And Donnie hit a home run right over our head to win the game in the ninth. It wasn't a walk-off because we were in Angels, and I ended up winning about $100 from the fans who were friends of ours in Los Angeles. So, anyways, Donnie Baseball. I know I'm clicking. Hopefully, y'all guys got that. I know I'm clicking out. Sorry. Hopefully, you got that Donnie Baseball, bro. That's my dude.
Don Mattingly. Yeah, this I knew. I'm. You know what? Honestly, like, there's a lot of weeks where I just try to like peg your list. I didn't do any of that. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that you put him here because anytime we talk about baseball, you tend to bring him up. At least Yankees up for sure. But yeah. And what about you, Dustin? Don Mattingly, Yankees? I know you said you were a professional baseball guy.
No clue.
Yeah.
I don't think Don Mattingly has a Funko, but if he does, I need it. I need all of them. If there's more than one, but I don't think he has one.
I don't think so, but
probably not.
I
don't think. I've looked up Yankee ones. They're mostly new. I think like Aaron Judge, John Carlos Stanton.
They got newer ones, and I know they got a lot of Jackie Robinson ones.
Yeah.
So
all right,
that's my guy, man. Donnie Baseball. And, it broke my heart because he was supposed to be the manager. He was on the bench for a little bit of the Yankees, and they gave it to Boone. And he went to the Marlins, the Dodgers, and now he's at Toronto, which is heartbreaking. He's on the bench for Toronto. Yeah, I love that. Bernie Williams. Not only is Bernie Williams amazing, he's like Hootie and the Blowfish. He can play the guitar as well, and he's awesome.
I like Bernie Mac. R.I.P. Oh. Speaking of baseball and nostalgia, real quick, this is not part of this. Did you get the amazing news? Backyard baseball is coming back.
Yes.
Yes,
Sanchez, I did. I saw it all over Facebook.
The GOAT for fictional baseball characters, which always gets unmentioned, is Pablo Sanchez. But yeah, that's a
every one of the things I saw was Pablo Sanchez like sliding.
He's
three different
greatest fictional baseball player of all time.
Yeah,
and it's just, I mean, there's no way around it. So anyway,
like Pablo Sanchez. I mean, I don't know that they probably get canceled if they put Pablo Sanchez in nowadays.
No, I mean,
that's polarizing name. You know what I mean? Like they could have went a different.
Well, he was the GOAT, so
he was the GOAT.
Baseball wise, for me, man, probably my favorite baseball player is going to be he was a Cubs guy. His name was Henry Rowan Gardner. And he was 13-year-old. I mean, Rocket Fire.
There you go.
Rookie of the year.
Great movie.
Until he fell down and hurt his arm again.
I'll
be doing a video on MLB Hall of Fame that was born. Wait. I will be doing a video on a MLB Hall of Fame, I'm guessing, Hall of Famer that was born here. Born here Where's here in New Orleans? Pat, or are you like in an outskirt of New Orleans? Like where's your actual location?
Yeah.
Now
Well,
I know in Gretna, my dad's from Gretna, and he used to play at Mel Ott Field, which he's a Hall of Famer, and Mel Ott is from that area of the West Bank. So that might be
Marrero.
Is it Mel Ott? Is it Mel Ott? Because I know he's from over there.
Hey, I'm going to Marrero tomorrow. It's why we're doing.
Cruising down the street in my. No, just kidding.
First song.
Yes, Mel Ott. Look at that. Look at that. Tell me I don't. Yeah. My dad loved Mel Ott.
Well, Mel Ott Park is in Belle Chase, right? Or not Belle?
Yeah, it's in the West Bank, but it's
on the West Bank. I guess that's technically, is that Marrero? Yeah. Anyway, either way. Well, I'm going to move on to mine now. We're about the hour mark, but I'm going to go ahead and so all of my people today on my list, with the exception of this one, are actual real people. This is my only fictional pick. And I am doing for Gretna. Thank you. Why couldn't I say that?
That's where my dad's from. So I kind of figured. But Gretna and Belle Chase are like.
Gretna's just right. Gretna's before the well, not tunnel anymore, bridge, because
it's a bridge now.
So my grandmother lived right, like, what is it, Louisiana, down to the right, and you had to go up one way and back the other direction. She lived there. That's where my dad grew up.
Yeah. Anyway, we're boring people who are not from here, who don't why we're talking about directions. But let's get into mine. This is my first fictional character today. I'm going to venture into the TV/movie realm of things on this one. This character, for a similar reason to my Rosie, was near and dear to me. If you've hung out long enough, I've talked about him plenty of times when we talk about my favorite 90s superhero cartoon. The remake X-Men 97 was amazing, but I'm going with Remember It. Give me Gambit. Gambit is my childhood hero, and obviously Remy LeBeau from New Orleans. I finally had a superhero who I could relate to in the sense of I can't turn potential energy into kinetic energy and throw it and do that whole deal. But to have representation of this Cajun on TV with my favorite superheroes was just the greatest thing ever. Now, I will say this. I believe that over the history of Gambit, he's probably one of the more underappreciated characters or underrepresented, not represented enough. I think 97 did fantastic, even though episode 5, again, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry that this is a spoiler. You've had plenty of time to watch this, but the way that he goes out in episode 5 is amazing, which, by the way, I did a devotional based on that. You should go check that out on the reboot side of our stuff. But Gambit has always been my favorite. Now I have not watched the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie, but I see the Channing Tatum stuff all over the place because I'm on the internet. I mean, that just happens, right? I love that he's getting some love. There's some real desire to get Gambit kind of his own movie. I hope that they do it right. I think that Channing Tatum would be a great one. I think it's what they're doing is great. I love it. But over the history of this, he's kind of been one of those more underappreciated guys, not really highlighted as much. He's one of the main X-Men. He's in the opening credits. He's the guy. He's one of the guys. Yeah, there's just not things where it just and like I said, I loved 97. I thought they did fantastic with Gambit, with all the characters, with everything. It was a great, and I'm looking forward to how it continues to go. But Gambit was my one that I look towards. In fact, I loved him so much that I named one of my first dogs Gambit. Gambit was my dude, and got to go with him. And I had mentioned to you pre-show, Dustin, that's one of the pops I'm looking for. So I got to be on the lookout. There he is. Is that the glow in the dark one?
It's a black
light one. Yeah, those are sweet, man. I saw one. And I don't think it was Funko brand. It was like some kind of offshoot or something at Five Below, but it was like a zombie something or other. It was like a small one.
Yeah, so they have they did a zombified series for Funko, and there's a Gambit one.
It was an actual Funko, but it was like a smaller. It wasn't the full size.
So it's probably one of the keychains, but they made the bigger ones of them too. So he was on my Benjamin's list.
I took a Benjamin.
Yeah. Hey,
so you're from down here in Bayou Blue. I mean, originally, so of course you got to have Gambit. You got to have some.
Yeah, I mean, look, same thing. Great pick. For the same reasons that you like them, right? There's a bunch of people when I do these comic cons that they're like, oh, and I hope nobody takes offense to this, but it's like, oh, I just made a comic book of the first New Orleans comic book hero. And I'm like, nope. I'm like, first of all, there's like 3 of them. I'm like, but the number 1 of all time is Gambit. I mean, great pick. I have
it's right there. That's I love Joe. He's a good guy.
I have a lot of Gambit comics. I read a lot of the comics whenever I was growing up. The video games, I don't remember if it was the arcade one or on the Sega Genesis, but there was one that I remember when he came out as a character. It was like, oh, yep, that's who I'm picking in order to play.
So
the game. I'm looking at it. Yeah,
I love this pick. Congratulations getting this on the list because that makes a lot of sense. But for me, and he's definitely one of my favorites of all time. For me, because he wasn't as mainstream, like he wasn't really like my jam, right? Because it just you barely saw him. If you watched him in the cartoon, and then you had to read the comic. And if I'm being honest, I didn't have that many X-Men comics. Which, speaking of that, on Monday we're doing our top favorite comic books of all time. And it's actual books, and it's with Dan Delatorre, and he's with Spine Tech. But going back, if you read it, but X-Men in X-Men 97, I fell in love with it. But like just the cartoon didn't like elevate him over several other superheroes that I just had not a better connection, because obviously New Orleans, but a bigger connection with. Yeah. And I did have him on my Benjamins, with knowing that if there were any superheroes going to be spoken from Andy, it would have been him first. So I kind of knew that was going to be gone. Good pick, dude. I appreciate it. And totally. Dino Mutt, Underdog, and Lady Polly Pure. 80s room. That's so funny. So you, Underdog, and Dino Mutt are on your list. That's awesome. Heck yeah, Gambit. Yeah, so that's halfway, man. Halfway through our mountain. And we got some stuff to chat about. As always, when we're halfway, we kind of do a little bit of commercials. One, we always chat about these guys right here. That's right above me. That's Culture Box. We'll get to them in a second because I didn't talk about what's below me right now. And Andy just mentioned it. And since he brought it, it's a good segue into what we're doing. But we are, both Andy and I have kind of had a reboot or a rebirth over the last 10, 15 years of our lives. We have not always been what I would consider role models or somebody else's childhood hero. I can tell you right now, my greatest joy in my life, and there's not a bigger joy in my life, but to being someone else's role model, mainly my kids, but I also am a youth and young adult pastor. I'm also a coach. I'm also a elementary school teacher. And so with all those things being said, which Andy also is all of those, we just feel that that you've got to have a little bit of a change in your life in order to be a good role model. And one of our favorites is what we consider Reboot, which is right backwards, but so right there. And let me just drop this in your spirit right now and check this out.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed.
What's up? They're getting closer.
Oh yeah? Watch this.
So reboot is our way to just kind of use nerdy things and present the gospel. And Andy, just a few weeks ago, did a presentation with X-Men 87. If I'm being honest, Andy, we are far behind what I hope to have over the summer. We just got busy. The idea is that every Sunday, and at least every other Sunday, we would do some kind of message with something that's going on in pop culture. I was going to do Acolyte, and now it's canceled for reasons that probably aren't. And I was gonna kind of go against some of those things. But Andy was thinking about if I did one of the Inside Out, but we would love to have a few more. And go check that out on our homepage. Also, check that out. Dustin mentioned Bayou Collectibles is going to be at the conventions. All of those conventions he's mentioned, we're invited to. We're definitely going to 2. Hopefully, make it to Pelicon. We had those guys on a couple weeks ago. That's in January. But we're going to preach some messages. I have a message that I'm kind of planning for Louisiana RetroCon. That's going to be in the wrestling world. Andy, looks like you're going to have to miss out on the St. Tammany Collectors Con potentially. But maybe we can get that one on Saturday. So we'll figure out that coming forward because Andy is going to Argentina. Now, Andy, with that being said, what are you going to do in Argentina?
Yeah, so this will be my 3rd year going to Argentina. This is my first year actually leading the team to Argentina. We've got a group of 6 of us going. And every time we go to Argentina, our main focus is planting churches in areas where there are no churches, where there is not much gospel presence there. A lot of areas that are very dirt poor. And I don't mean that to be offensive, but literally everything's dirt. I mean, that's kind of where the villages, the regions that we go to, a lot of drug abuse, a lot of just lost souls, lost people that are just hurting, struggling financially, but are in that are some of the most joyful people I've ever been around. They never talk about what they lack. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing area. So much hurt and pain there, but also so much just love and hope that you see. But a lot of people who are out of hope. And what we do is we go there to try to bring that. We bring it, we've shared, obviously we're pastors, but we bring the hope that we believe in and what we share there and faith and everything. And what we do is we purchase a lot of land. Every time we go, we purchase land or we purchase a building to where there can be a church that is set up there. Now, church there is not what we think of church here necessarily in the sense of this huge, immaculate, amazing building. The last one we did last year was essentially an old rundown garage that they converted into one. This year, we are purchasing just a lot of land. And that land will put a tent up and maybe some plastic chairs and stuff to hold church services every night. And what we're doing is we are praying and trying to receive an offering, or we're trying to raise the money to $4,000 essentially is what it's down to. $4,000 to purchase this lot of land so that when we go there, we can hold church services out there. I see in the comments here, we talk about we need to get the church into communist California. Listen, absolutely. There's places and areas in our country that need it. But look, there are some areas right there in Argentina where the government is just not the best. And this will be a place definitely that needs that. There's a ton of witchcraft and idolatry and all kinds of stuff that's going on there. Anyway, the reason I bring all that up, and I know, Kirk, you want to share something, but the reason I bring all that up is that I'm just asking. Listen, I know we've only got 9 people hopping in right now. We have about close to 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. We got quite a bit on Instagram and areas like that and Facebook group. If you would like to be a part of what's happening in Argentina and sharing that, you want to give in a monetary way, all of that 100% literally goes straight to Argentina. In fact, today I just wired money over there to a missionary that we support, that we're there with. So everything goes to that. If you guys would want to, and I don't know if, maybe this is where your faith is or not, prayerfully consider just financially donating to that. That is what all of this goes to, is to building the church, to bringing hope to some people. and just sharing the gospel to a hurting people. So if you want to be a part of that, hey, just hey, message. I know some of you don't know me personally. Maybe you just known us through Rushmore. But if you'd like to just even chat more about that, I'd love to chat about that. So I didn't mean to take all that time about it, but Kirk, what you got?
So one thing, just a clarifying statement. You didn't just randomly throw a dart and pick Argentina.
Yeah,
you have a guy that's in Salta area who was a pastor at our church. He's gone. He's come back. He served at our church for a couple more years, and then he went back. So it's a family that we go and visit, or I say we, my church, his church. They go and visit to lay groundwork over there. It isn't just, and nothing against missions. I love missions. I was a missionary in Atlanta. That's why I'm here. And you mentioned 80s Room about communist China, geez, communist California. Well, I came over here to homeless and sex trafficking Atlanta and was a missionary. There are absolutely places here.
Yeah.
Andy's going to do the work that God thinks that he feels called, and this is going to be his third year, and it's going to be amazing. So with that being said, November, he's out for 2 weeks, so we're going to do some pre-recording, I'm assuming, or just like we did one year, we phoned him in, and that was fun. So, hey, Andy, that's
real quick, Yoda, physical builds or storage container rehab, we literally put on a lot of land. We put a tent up, and we put now we'll purchase the land for a local missionary that's partnered with Pastor Luis, like Kirk mentioned, but they'll own that lot of land. And with the plan eventually being to build something physical on that spot. But for the time being, for the week that we're there, we'll hold tent services out there to have church every night there. Yeah. And I see you went to Portugal a couple and with 15 a few years back. That's amazing, dude. That is awesome. That is awesome.
Now, Yoda is he is South Georgia, if I remember correctly. He's a little more south, but we appreciate you and your wife Echo. Yeah, we love all you guys so much. Thanks for being here. We got one more thing to share, though. Actually, two more things, really quickly. We have Culture Box, which are these guys right here. Culture Box is our friends. They're all Christian. They all are just it's kind of a network of friends that kind of support each other. And we just love sending our friends that way. Listen, I don't know how you guys feel, but me personally, I love to go into other people's communities, hang out, say hello, become friends, and support them with all of it, with the comments, whatever. We appreciate you guys being here on our show, but a part of that is kind of like, hey, come check out our friends, man. So go check out our friends at Culture Box. So, Andy, what are we going to highlight today?
I'm sorry, I'm chewing ice over here. I'm like a madman. Let's highlight our good friends over at the Untold Podcast. Let's check it out.
Yep.
The Untold Podcast is a speculative fiction podcast utilizing the genres of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, among others, in order to engage the culture's imagination from a Christian worldview. Every month, Nathan James Norman produces and narrates a new story, presented in a unique and dynamic way. Check out the Untold Podcast at untoldpodcast.com to listen and leave them a review on Apple Podcasts. There's our friends over at Untold Podcast. Go give them a like, a follow. Go check out their content. Let them know the Rushmore Show sent you.
You got one more thing, right?
Oh, and also, I don't drink this coffee because it is, at this point in Central Time, it's approaching 9 o'clock. But I want to highlight my good friend, Cade. He's got a company called The Village Coffee. I have a sticker to show you guys. But if you go to villagebeans.com, he will ship to the 48 states. So I'm sorry if anybody's in here from Alaska or Hawaii. I heard Hawaii's
or
got
China.
I'm talking about the states. But for real, go there, go check it out. Villagebeans.com. You can order by the pound. You can order K-cups. You can sign to be in the coffee club, the email list. What they do is they'll send you some coupons every month, but they'll also send you a coffee lesson in your email, which is super fun. So get to learn some stuff about coffee too. It is amazing stuff. It is amazing stuff. And I am not a coffee snob, but I will tell you that Mexico blend that he's got is the best coffee I've had. It's so good. Ethiopia is really good too, but the Mexican, that's the one that I would go for. Anyway, Argentina, believe it or not, is not known for their coffee. They're not a coffee. They have coffee there, but it's not their thing. Yeah.
All right, let's jump in. Let's get this thing going, man. We're a little behind because we started later, and it's already hitting the hour mark. So, hey, Dustin, you're up.
Yep.
And you are going to go, and we're going to finish this mountain. We're halfway up the mountain. Time for Link and the George. Who's your number 2?
All right. So, real quick before I jump in on that. So, yeah, Andy.
David is in the house.
I've been to not all over Argentina, but Buenos Aires. A couple of times for work. And, to what you were saying about how proud these people are. So, the first time I went over there, the first thing that I noticed that you don't notice here in the States is at nighttime you'll walk around and you'll see a family sleeping on the street with kids. Yeah. And they won't ask you for money because they're too proud to do that. Yeah. I don't know if you get to spend much time in Buenos Aires, but just one quick thing. When we went to the La Recoleta cemetery that's there. Mm-hmm. And if you think St. Louis and New Orleans is something to see, this is like, it's impressive. Yeah. These people really do put a lot of thought and energy into their faith and what happens to them in the afterlife. Yeah. Really cool to check out if you're able to while over there. All right. So jumping in for my link. So I almost spoiled this one, right? By saying it the last time. So as a kid, the next 2 picks are going to be younger Dustin. As a kid, waking up in the morning, watching cartoons, and then one of my favorite movies. This one's going to be based off of a movie. It's another fictional character. It's probably going to be unpopular when you know what it's from. But my link of the person that I always wanted to dress up for Halloween, but couldn't because they didn't make his costume. I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan as a kid and still am as an adult. But Casey Jones was my hero as a kid, watching Ninja Turtles, especially, in the movie when they brought him out. I mean, I got my favorite turtle, but as far as just in the series complete together, this guy was the hero of the day.
Yeah.
Is that Jose Canseco bat?
So who is your favorite turtle though? That's what the world needs to know.
Leo.
Dang it.
Yeah. Leonardo. He was the leader. He was yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anybody pick Leonardo?
Like, that's interesting. Leonardo is the least liked out of all of them.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, no.
He had swords.
I appreciate the pick, but Leonardo never gets the love that he deserves. Never gets the love. I love it.
Team Mikey all the way. But look, hey, to your pick though, Casey Jones, this is a great pick. He was like a member of Slipknot before we had Slipknot.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So I'll say this. I love Casey Jones.
Yeah.
I love when he grew up and he went on to be in television and doing I'm just kidding, like other shows. But Casey Jones is great, man. Great pick. I love I actually went as Casey Jones one year. I bought one of those $5 hockey masks at I don't remember where it was at. And this is as an adult me, by the way. Adult me. And Cannon went, or might have been even Carson. One of my kids went as a Ninja Turtle, and I went as Casey, and I took that $5 really cruddy hockey mask, and I colored it all in to make it look like Casey's mask.
Like you weren't Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. So I put the lines in it and did all the stuff, and yeah, it came out pretty cool. So I went as that. But the funny thing is, I had my beard, so like my beard was hanging out from under the. I was trying to like, and it wouldn't work. But anyways, love this pick. Good pick. I do potentially have a Ninja Turtle guy on my Benjamins. Casey Jones is not one I would have picked. He's a great pick.
Well, okay, I see who it could be. To me, yeah.
There's about 3 it could be, but I love Casey. I love Casey.
Yeah. Good pick, man. I love that. All right, so Kirk, you're up now, man, for your.
So here's the thing. Yeah. Here's the thing. This one is I was my oldest me at this time. Bo Jackson was kind of like probably like 12-ish, 11-ish, depending on like what year. It was kind of in that preteen years. This is freshman, sophomore year. Now, I know you guys mentioned your criteria. I had to have this guy. Now, you had mentioned earlier that there might be some emotions involved with this. That it's really hard to tell this one. My best friend when I was in high school, Barrett and Rudy and all those guys, we were called the Clique, and we used to go over to Barrett's dad's house every single night. And Barrett's dad was the very first person that I can remember actually told me he loved me, and actually taught me the gospel, not in a Catholic religion book, right? That I was just check marking things off, and it's kind of funny how the world circles around. His name was Jay McCreary, by the way, and Jay is going to be my number 2. It's kind of crazy how the world circles. Much about a year ago, like right now, like a year ago, like I don't know the exact time, but I know it's kind of coming. I went home to Louisiana, and I actually did his funeral, and he passed away last year. And it was it was actually the first time I had seen several of those guys in so long, and it was just overwhelming. But Jay, here's why Jay was so amazing to me. Jay not only was the cool dad, he was a single dad, lawyer. He talks about girls. He talks about the bad things in life, honestly, drinking and partying. And he kind of gave us that kind of world. He let us all come over. He was that dad that was like, look, as long as you're staying here and being safe, I really don't care. But you're going to be safe. And then that would be on Saturday night. And then Sunday, he would wake us up in a whirlwind. Get up, time to clean up all these beer cans and everything else you got around here, blah, blah, blah. Because we're about to have church. We didn't go to church. We had church. And he would pull out the Bible. We'd all sit around, and he would read a couple verses or a couple chapters, and he would tell us. And then I actually was like, yeah, I don't believe any of that, and they would all be really worried for me. They always were praying for me. And at that time, I was an unbeliever. I'm definitely forever changed because of Jay McCreary. And then later in life, he used to say this, and Andy, I know you've heard me say this before to my kids. I know you've heard me say this, and you probably didn't even catch where it came from, and it's from him. He would say, "Who loves your face?" And I'd say, "Jay does." And he would tell his kids, "Who loves your face?" "You do, Dad." And that was just his way of saying I love you. And I would go home to my family and be like, why don't you guys say I love you? And it was just something really hard for my parents. My parents it wasn't in their vernacular. Like, they didn't get told that. It was just like, I love you. I don't need to tell you that. Jay told me every single time I saw him. So if you ever see me with my kids, it's absolutely, man, I try to be Jay as much as I can. So my number 2 is going to be Jay McCreary. Yeah. Can you? I don't hear you. Can you hear me?
I don't know. I got it now. I knew it was only a matter of time before we got serious. So that's a good pick, man. Yeah, and I remember you coming in to do that funeral. So, I think about like, and obviously not knowing Jay, but I think about like, where's the first place I heard the gospel? Like I grew up, being in Louisiana, Bible Belt area, it's kind of culturally part of what's down here. So knowing like those Noah's Ark stuff and the David and Goliath and knowing the name of Jesus, knowing all that kind of stuff, that's part of it. But it's hard for me to trace back who actually shared the gospel with me the first time. But it's good. That's an awesome thing to know that you can.
Hey, real quick, I just popped her up. Genesis, she called Trouble Number One or Jenny. But hey, hello Genesis. She's one of my students and one of Cannon's friends. One of Cannon's good friends. Nice. So hello Genesis. Nice to see you. Yeah, man. I came and stayed at your house for that, and it was a rough one, man. It was a rough one, but yeah, I love that guy to death, man.
I love this comment because on StreamYard it doesn't show what it really is. It just says popcorn yellow stripe smile, popcorn yellow stripe smile, popcorn yellow stripe smile. That's a great one, Bill.
Oh, Dave is in the house. Dave, I just said Don Mattingly just a minute ago, but Dave Mattingly is in the house. Don't be mistaken for Don. But he actually posted this in the Facebook a couple times. So G Dub, Jim Henson, Carl Sagan, who's Bob Ross, and Fred Rogers. Man, that is some old school.
I like that. I like Mr. Rogers pick.
I love it. Fred Rogers,
little
Bruce,
treat.
that is one of the best. That's one of the best documentaries, bro. Is watching his life. Good job. And Bill Keys, man, gotta have you on. Video games is really full. Hopefully, I get you on video games. We're gonna see you at the cons, man. I love that. Yeah, you're older than the rest of us. That's still fine. We love those guys. We love that. Dave is one of the smartest guys that's ever been on our show. To be honest, he's one of the smartest. So Dave's got some cool picks. Love you, man. Love you. And Dave, I need you to do a devotion for us, man. Can you do a devotion for us to get this thing going? Yeah, I need you to do a devotion. Dave's also a nerd preacher. So thank you for that. All right, let's do this. Andy.
Well, I'm gonna venture into sports now. So I've already done food, I've done movies and TV, and I'm gonna do sports as my next one. It's kind of a little segue into what we're gonna get into in just a couple weeks here. It's no surprise. Now, this guy's not from New Orleans, okay, but he's actually not that far away. This is the guy who got me into football as a young whippersnapper. And I'm going with the whatever pick in the 1991 NFL draft. The Atlanta Falcons select Brett Favre. I'm going Brett Favre. Brett Favre is my pick, and not because he played for Atlanta. Obviously, he kind of like flunked out of the Falcons franchise, or maybe they flunked him. Who knows what happened? But better known as the Green Bay Packers all-time great quarterback. This was the guy who got me into football. Now, again, he's drafted in 91, so he's playing the kind of prime time of his career through the 90s. He was the guy that you would watch. I would watch TV with my dad, and we didn't have NFL Red Zone. That was kind of the time when sometimes the Saints game would get blacked out because that's just kind of where we were at. We couldn't even watch it as a local. But you couldn't get through the 90s without seeing some Brett Favre highlights to know his name. He is one of the superstar quarterbacks of the 90s. And he was the guy who played this, not that it made me think that I could do it, but what it did for me was it was like, this guy just looks like he's having the time of his life. He looks like a guy who's playing with house money. He looks like a guy who just he's the best sound bites. He's also a local DeKalb, Mississippi guy. So
great accent.
He's the guy. He's down here. If he looks like he's playing in the backyard.
It's not Kiln, Mississippi. It's the Kiln.
The Kiln. he looks like he turns the football over in the huddle and just like draws the routes on the football for his guy. Like he was what
Pablo Sanchez.
He was what football was all about. And and then added bonus, he helped the Saints win a Super Bowl by throwing that pick there at the end of the NFC Championship, which, hey, I know that's a negative play for him, helped the Saints out, but I still love him. Brett Favre was the guy. As a 90s guy, obviously we were always a Saints family. We just were. But my next, the guy that I was going to, I liked Brett Favre more than I liked the Saints during that time. I just did. So, and then again, one of the other things, like the core memories, is again watching with my dad, but watching Sports Center. He would wake up very early. I've shared this before. He would wake up very early for work, so I would wake up early with him, and I would just sit on the couch. He would cook breakfast burritos, and we would watch Stuart Scott, Rich Eisen on Sports Center the next morning, and all the time, you had some Brett Favre highlights on there, and it was just the time of my life. So I'm going to go with my link. I'm going Brett Favre. In my opinion, if I take the Saints, if I take Drew Brees out of it because of the obvious bias that I have towards Drew, Brett Favre is my favorite quarterback and probably favorite football player of all time. Well, I know. I mean, yeah, you got this up and coming.
No, I was going to tell you. I actually held this up for a certain reason. Today's game, everybody's looking for a Brett Favre.
Yeah, I'm glad. No, I know why you're saying this.
I'm going to be honest. Today's game, people are looking for the gunslinger. And before Mahomes, before Herbert, before Stafford, before these guys that just have cannons for an arm, throwing things behind their back, over their head, he was the innovator of offense when it comes to changing the narrative of what a quarterback was supposed to be. Dude, him running down the baseline down the right side and just kind of running and just kind of like almost two-hand jump shot and a 70-yard throw. Yeah, it's one of the most unique things. I mean, he just it's right on the money. I remember exactly where I was at when he won the Super Bowl against the Patriots in the 90s. I mean, I remember who I was with, where I was at. Matter of fact, we had a little bet that day of something else. I won't go on that tangent. But Brett Favre, I love Brett Favre, but he's kind of had some bad limelight over the last few years. Yeah, which is unfortunate because before that, the only negative thing that you could ever go on was that he didn't stay with the Packers, right? And that was a big deal at that time. But not everybody can be Derek Jeter and stay a whole career. That's crazy. Like nobody does that anymore. And I just think of Brett as being every kid in the 90s wanted to throw a football. Yeah. Like Brett. Yeah. Now, we go, Kobe. When you throw a football, you're like, Brett, whatever. I mean, like you're trying to throw that as hard as you can. And nobody could do it, bro. He had a missile. Yeah. Freaking missile. Yeah. They had things where they were saying like that he was hurting the guy's hands. Like, you throw it so hard, like, bro, you got to take off.
Yeah. One thing when I think about Brett Favre that I remember as a kid, my brother Jarrett running around with his Green Bay Packers starter jacket. Yeah, there you go. And that's the reason why he wore it, was because he loved Brett Favre. So, like you said, you couldn't even watch a Saints game. I mean,
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, unless you went to the state, unless you actually went to the game, you couldn't watch.
Can I just address that? If Who Dat Pat's in here real quick, I don't know if he left. I hope you're still here. We're doing Saints all time for the first one. And just in case anybody's out there and they're like, oh, we don't want to watch that show, whatever. We're all Saints fans. We're from New Orleans, whatever. But you guys don't realize it. They were the Aints for real. They wore bags on their head.
There you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Who's it? I can't see.
Bobby Hebert.
Oh, nice.
Listen, the Cajun Cannon. Listen, they actually wore bags on the head. And back then, I hated the Saints because they sucked so much. Yeah. And that's
Drew Brees changed you, right?
That's why I picked another team. I picked another team, and and then when I got older into college, I realized how important the Saints were for the city of New Orleans and the
right. Yeah.
And I was like, man, I've got to support them. That's where the Chiefs came in when I was a kid in the 90s, and I started pulling for them. But honestly, I went back to the Saints probably in the late 90s, and then middle of 2000s is when it all kind of just, yeah, like we didn't win but one, but man, but that's we digress.
They should have been the team of the 2000s, of the late to 2010s. They should have been.
I think they were the most winning team in the 2000s.
Of 2010s. I mean, like 2009 to 2000, like
even though they only won one Super Bowl and Brady got 7, I believe the Saints were the most, well, obviously regular season wins, but and they just couldn't win that extra game, man. I mean that the playoffs.
I get in a lot of arguments on how Tom Brady's not the GOAT whenever it comes.
Hey, that's why this show started. That's why this show started. So hang around when Who Dat Pat comes on.
But back to Brett Favre being on there. Just, if you think about it, before Aaron Rodgers was a quarterback, he was Brett Favre's Gatorade guy. And if you really look at Brett Favre, that man took an absolute beating.
Oh, check.
Brett Favre is a better quarterback, is better than Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is the absolutely most overrated quarterback of all time. I will die on that.
Bro, this might be the best Bennies I've ever seen in my life. Dave Mattingly, you are amazing.
Weird Al's a genius.
Childhood heroes: Weird Al, Pee Wee Herman, Gomez.
I don't look up to Pee Wee Herman. But for obvious reasons.
Hilarious. All right, man. We're to the George. We're there. Let's finish this thing.
All right. So this one for me, I guess, like I said, I wasn't gonna do a personal pick just because the same thing. It's like, hey, and I didn't feel like an audience could really relate to that. But my George personal pick is gonna be my dad. My dad was a police officer for 20-something years before he retired. Kind of quit the force, went and started his own AC company. But I saw a quote the other day, and that made me think of this show, is that, nobody in life, including your best friend, wants to see you succeed more than what they do, except your dad. Yeah. And it was like, man, when I heard that, I'm like, oh, it kind of hit me in the feels. But all right, so I'm gonna go my George as a kid, hero, looking up to somebody who you wanted to be, jumping on the trampoline and fighting with your friends and your cousins. My George, every weekend, waking up, getting home from school, turning this on. My George is gonna be Jason David Frank as a Power Ranger.
Come on. Nice.
So, Power Rangers, I think Power Rangers came out in like 1995. So I would have been like in 5th grade, somewhere around there. And, I actually, it's hidden up on my other shelf, but I have like the little flute that he plays. I can remember as a kid having the little morphin deal with the coins, and so that is my George, is the Green Power Ranger, Jason David Frank.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you went green on that too, because we could say White Ranger. We could do that if we want to also. But this is a fantastic pick. For me personally, it was, I don't know, like if I played the video games or if I did any of that stuff, which I loved the Super Nintendo video game for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I was always the Black Ranger, man. It's that Mastodon for me. He always did it for me. So, but if I'm going to go second, it's definitely Jason David Frank for sure. Absolutely, he's going to be your next guy on that list. So I love this pick. I was big on Power Rangers for sure. I was much, well, I didn't say much younger. I was in 5th grade. So if it comes out in 95, if that's the year 94, 95, I mean, I'm 5-6 years old. So I'm, kindergarten, whatever, when it's coming out. So I was into it for sure. I have an uncle who's about 5 years older than me, 5 or 6 years older. So he was another one that kind of got me into that stuff too. So this is a this is a great pick here. I love this one.
Yeah, I love that pick, and I showed this earlier. I was trying to see. I pulled it up to see if there was a green one on the back, and there's not. They have all the other colors in alpha, and
Yeah.
they have all of the other fives
Alpha,
there.
Alpha's pretty sweet. That's cool.
I wasn't a Power Ranger guy because I was a Voltron guy, and when this came out, I was a teenager. And I was a little offended. I was hurt. I was like, man, I'm a Voltron guy. But I appreciate the fandom. And meeting Austin, actually, St. Tammany Collectors Con coming up. There is the Yellow Ranger and the Blue Ranger, I believe, from some of the other iterations. I think it's blue, maybe red. I don't remember. Definitely yellow for sure. And somebody else, but not from the original. Austin was there before. Zordon was there a couple.
Yeah,
I think that was. I have that one signed. I got that.
Yeah, Zordon was a couple times back. Power Rangers folks coming to the con happened quite a bit. I have just for record, and I've said this before, I have the original 5 Power Ranger toys still in the box that I purchased before they went for sale. I was working at KB Toys when that happened, and I pulled them out while I was stocking, and I put them on the side and bought them before they went on sale, which is pretty cool. They're not in the greatest of shape because of shipping all for those years. I didn't take care of them, but shipping them around. But yeah, I love this pick. Good pick. I love how you went very, very, honest. Now, tell me this: wasn't he bad when he was green?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't go white as the hero. You went as the villain. This is twice you've picked some bad guys. I'm worried about your family.
Well,
yeah, I'm just
yeah, there you go. There you go.
And you picked Casey Jones, who's kind of anti-hero. Yeah, and who was the other guy? That's Casey Jones.
Stone Cold.
Casey Jones.
And Cloud Strife. I mean, Cloud
Cloud's definitely a hero.
You balanced the force. You balanced the force.
So, all right, well, I'll jump in. And I love how you kind of threw your dad in there. But listen, when you're talking childhood heroes, this is the only pick that I could possibly do as my dad. And if I would have kind of gone your route, I would have probably just bumped everybody up, and then Jay gets number 1, and then my first pick going to be right out the box would probably have been that number 4. But so it's all going to happen. My dad, listen, my dad, Narlis Plaisance Jr. He was a steel worker his whole life. He worked in the refinery, but as a guy that just worked in a refinery, he didn't necessarily have a huge circle of people. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't like ultra famous. He didn't do something that we didn't make a ton of money. We just whatever. And when my dad passed away, I actually that was the first time I ever spoke at a funeral, and I had just gotten. I actually just had joined ministry school, and I wrote a poem. It's actually on my wall, and my nephew actually printed the poem, and I read the poem at the funeral. But my dad had the biggest funeral I've ever seen in my life. I'm in. It's not necessarily the time you want to brag, but it is. I think I'd rather more people at my funeral than my birthday party. My dad just had a line of people that just never stopped, and it being my dad, it was such an emotional roller coaster to talk to all these people when he left. There's so much of me and my mannerisms. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I catch my dad, and it's funny. I always have people tell me, "Oh, you're definitely Narlis' son," whatever. And my dad, I said it earlier, he was from Gretna. He was born and raised out that way. And I mentioned the house, but and Andy was like, "Yeah, we're going to bore everybody." But I was like, "Man, I should have just saved that." You go around the house, but my dad's house was one of those shotgun houses. What I mean by that is if you open the front door and you open the back door, you can shoot right through it, right? Well, like every room was like consecutive, and there was only one bedroom. and there were 3 kids, and my dad dropped out of 8th grade to go and make money for the family. He never finished school, but he was the smartest man I ever knew. He always taught me these crazy ways of how to learn math, and he just whatever, man. He was my best friend. I was the best man in his wedding after my mom passed away. He wasn't the best man in mine, although I told him he should have been. And I had Rudy and my nephew Kyle as my best man. But greatest man I ever know, man. And I mentioned that, and I say that one of the things we want to be for our parents. I look at my dad, and I tell my son, I'm trying to be better than my dad, and that's impossible. But like when I go, I want my son to have a legacy that's similar to my dad, and that's just almost impossible. I mean, there's so many things that he made mistakes, but man, compassionate, and he wasn't even saved until the very end, last dying breath. One of our pastors, I won't go into a specific part of it, but one of our pastors, she sung Amazing Grace over him, and my dad gave his life to Christ and took his last breath. It's still crazy to this day, but yeah, my childhood hero got to be Dad.
Nice. You're giving us Tom Brady feels. Remember whenever he was asked who his hero is at that press conference and he got choked up? Yeah. That's a good pick, man, obviously. Yeah, obviously.
Well, and in Tom Brady, he talked about like the hard work and all those things. Like I seen the clips of that. My dad never played sports, never got a chance to, but he was always my coach, which is crazy, like, and I look at some of these guys that coach out at these parks, and I'm like, people make fun of him. They're like, you never played, you can't teach my kid anything. And I'm thinking about my dad. I was like, my dad never played. He didn't do any of that. He didn't get a chance. And he taught me everything I knew. I would go out in the yard and hit, but he was a shift worker. He was never home, man. And when he came home, man, I was the first one to go give him a hug when he woke up or whatever. And yeah, just a good man. I just love him and I miss him. But yeah.
Nice. Way to end your list there, man. Good pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'm kind of chuckling a little bit because you talk about being your coach. I can remember being 4 or 5 years old playing soccer, and it's like, probably not wanting to play, whatever. The coach is trying to get all these kids to go around, and I'll look over. It's like, there's my dad in this, policeman uniform, kind of hunched down doing this like there. It's like, oh, we got to go walk over to the cop, and he's fussing at me to do whatever. It's like, man, so the same thing. Like, he may have not been my actual coach, but he was there, and it's like, no, you're gonna, kind of keeping you in line.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and end this thing. I could have given you 1,000 chances to guess who my George was, and you'd get it on number 1. I'm cheating here slightly because it's actually 4 people. I did food. I've done TVs and movies. I've done sports. But if you know me, you know that music is my life, is everything, and what started it all for me are these gentlemen right behind me, and also right here. I'm going with the hottest band in the world, Kiss. They are everything for me musically. Now, here's what I'll share, and I've shared it plenty of times. They're not the greatest band as far as musically that I have now grown to love, but I will tell you, this started my love of music. Right? I remember when I was 8 years old, 7, 8 years old, seeing Kiss on TV, my parents showing me Kiss stuff on TV, and just my eyes lighting up. You can imagine a 7, 8-year-old kid seeing a fire-breathing, just these real life superhero looking people on stage, and they're playing instruments. this is what made me want to start, first of all, my love of music, but also my my desire to play music, right? And that's really what spawned all of this. I still listen to Kiss this day. I remember having, we talked about it last week about 90s nostalgia, having a dresser drawer full of cassette tapes. I had every Kiss cassette tape that there was. The first one that I went and bought, I mean, there's just so many things that tie into Kiss. You know, we talk about our dads and things like that. My dad bringing me to, believe it or not, Kmart for the first time to buy Kiss Destroyer on cassette tape. That was my first one that I had. Us putting it in there together and him telling me about Kiss and stuff. So it bridges so many different things for me. I remember, again, I told you I was a weird kid. I was playing like I was on Food Network in my kitchen with my mom, but I also would get my face painted like Gene Simmons just to go to Winn-Dixie with my mom. Like, I was that kid walking around, and it wasn't even Halloween. But my parents were like, "Yeah, heck yeah, we'll do that." And I had long hair, so I'd put my hair up kind of in the ponytail like Gene would do. So many different things that were just, I mean, as I look to my right here, I can't really turn this, but I have a Kiss lamp right here. I have Kiss everything. I've got a Gene Simmons tattoo on my leg. I mean, like, literally, Kiss was everything for me. Another big influence for my life was my uncle, who passed away at an early age from cancer, but he was one of those real inspirations for me to actually play the drums. But he was a big Kiss fan, so being able to listen to that with him, again, Kiss was everything. I've seen them now, gosh, 4 times or so. I know that they're at the tail end. In fact, they've actually recently come out and say that when they retire, they have AI avatars that are going to take over for Kiss. I don't know if you saw that. It's the most Kiss thing that they could do. I mean, we knew that was going to happen, right? I absolutely love Kiss. We talked about 90s nostalgia last week too, about Blockbuster. I would go and just rent the videos, and it was like the Kiss compilation of like the live stuff that they would play. I mean, I was just finding everything Kiss that I possibly could. These Kiss comics, I found this panel interesting. I've got Gene Simmons fighting off Dr. Doom. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, isn't that amazing?
Which is now Tony Stark.
Yeah, he's fighting off Tony
He's
Stark.
fighting Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. We're seeing it. If that doesn't get added to the movie, then I'm like, you're not sticking to it. Anyway, Kiss is where it's at. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind that this is where I was going with my George. I had to say it. It's not a shock at all.
No, I am shocked it's 1. But I'm not shocked.
I think of childhood heroes like who I'm looking up to, who I aspire to be. Right. Like, so, not role model, probably not the best role models.
No, not even doing the role model thing. Just like you went straight, nobody personal. So that's and that's fine. But I definitely knew they were here. I was kind of thinking 2, and then I kind of had him pegged at 2. I kind of had who was your last pick?
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. I thought was going to be 3 or 4, because he always talk about him, and yeah. So I mean, your list isn't a complete shock. Emerald was a shock.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that'd probably come off because we didn't really talk about it.
But I mean, it's a great pick, man. It's a fantastic pick. My Rushmore of music. Listen to this. Look at this, man. Dave, you never shot.
Without hats is the show. That's awesome. I love that.
You can go when you want to.
Ed's
and if you don't dance, we don't.
Now, your Rosie, God, I absolutely love. In Excess, dude. In Excess.
Oh, man, look, I remember seeing Ozzy bark at the moon on my TV. It was all over Megadeth. Nice. The comics, Dr. Doom took over in Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah. I get the whole storyline, but like, I'm just like, it's going to be interesting to see where we go. Good pick, man. Good pick. And now, Dustin, you're a Kiss fan?
I'm a all music fan.
I knew that.
Yeah, I am a Kiss fan. Man, one of the things that I think Kiss did for me as a kid, or well, as a teenager, because I was big into the new metal stuff. So especially when I can remember being at some friends' house, and we're listening to Korn, Limp Bizkit. You get into Slipknot or some Maryland.
10,000 fists in the air.
And I can remember, both my dad, my friends' parents be like, "Oh, that music is horrible," or "Oh, that's devil worshiping music." And then you go to your friends' parents' record album, and there's like Alice Cooper and Kiss and all these other things there, and it's like
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, Iron Maiden, and it's like, yeah. Look, this is music was on my list, but there's no way I could have picked anybody on there. I come from a family.
Music was, when I messaged you earlier, music was the one, or that I was like, because I just didn't play instruments, and I love music. I just felt kind of funny to put, like, because I never wanted to be a rock star, right? I never wanted to play music.
I absolutely.
I always wanted to be an athlete or a wrestler or some of those things, but music, I loved it.
Yeah.
So that was probably the one genre that I have some, but some of the other ones, trumpet.
It was just I couldn't pick one, because like I said, I come from a family of musicians. My grandpa was the singer and trombone player for a band called the Dufresne Brothers that they played around. But later, Pat, for me growing up, man, like Richie Valens was, because my grandpa used to make me, I'd watch La Bamba. So like, Richie Valens,
have you seen
all the
the
way.
TikTok about that? Where
No,
they got the guy, he goes, "How many of you thought the lyrics of the song?"
Oh yeah.
La la la
Yeah,
la la la.
La 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 la,
Right.
La Bamba.
That's how I sung it, But so yeah,
It's like I was in a bar room and there was some karaoke, and I looked over and I realized, and I don't remember what it said. He said, "Yeah." Anyways,
but yeah, when it came to music, it was like, man, I could go to guitarist, bass player, each instrument, as far as where the greatest are, or who I looked up to for that. So I just couldn't pick anybody with music. But I think this is a great pick.
Yeah, I have such a wide range of music taste, but when I trace it back to what began it for me, that's what Kiss is. And even to this day, I still enjoy Kiss. So I know they get a lot of hate.
all right.
They're probably one of the more hated groups that's out there, but they're one of the more successful groups that's ever been out there. One of my favorite quotes is,
Tell the quote.
Yeah, here it is. All bands wanted to be the Beatles. Kiss wanted to be Coca-Cola.
There you go.
That is a great. I love that quote so much. So, yeah. Anyway, Bayou Geek, what's your top 4 Bayous? Oh my gosh. I lived by one. Bayou
Bonfuka.
I'm just gonna stick with Bayou Lafouche.
There you go
with number 1.
What about Bayou La Batterie?
I do like Bayou La Batterie
from Forrest Gump. Anyway, all right. So we have given you guys our top 4s here, but we're not quite done. We lie when we give you our tagline and nothing more, because we actually do have a little bit more. Kirk, what we got coming up?
Hey, so we first off, let me just address this. Not address it, but say it, man. Hey, look, I'll never hate on anybody that feels the pull of the Lord in a different direction, man.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic 80s. Thank you for being a good example of that. And it's tough, man. It is very tough. But hey, look, we're gonna jump into our Benjamins. Now this is like a snake draft, if you will, of what's left. So let's get it. All right, guys, our honorable mentions. It is widely considered that Benjamin Franklin might have been the 5th guy on the mountain, and the 5th guy on the mountain means it's an honorable mention. And honorable mentions, it's time for us to talk about them. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to draft, and Dustin, you're first. I'm second. Andy's third. But the second round, it's like a fantasy football draft. It goes back the other direction, and then it goes back. So it's like a serpentine or snake draft, which means, Dustin, you get the last pick.
All right.
Here's the one thing about these picks. We don't have to go into them as deep. We're just trying to nail out a few other extras. We can say one or two things, but we are already at the 2-hour mark, so we don't want to hold them all too late. But thank you guys for everybody that's been hanging out. And, Dustin, you are up first.
All right. So real quick, anybody that's watched this show or you guys, you probably were like, oh, I know exactly where he's going for number one, but he's on my Benjamin list. Venom himself.
Nice.
So anti-hero, but I'll say this.
Keeping that theme going.
Do what? Yeah, keep
that
the
theme
going. But from what I can remember as a young kid, some of the first comic books that I actually came from my uncle. And whenever he just gave me a big old box, and I opened it up, and it was Lethal Protector 1 in there. And once I read that comic book, it was like, man, this is my guy. So Venom.
So Eddie Brock. All right, Kirk, you're up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a Louisiana boy. I'm doing LSU guy. I'm going with the big Aristotle. I'm going with Shaquille O'Neal.
You're going with Shaquille O'Neal? You're going to pick Shaquille O'Neal. Can't believe you picked Shaquille O'Neal.
Hey, listen, I saw a funny thing the other day, and it's just hilarious. It said Snoop Dogg has done more side quests than anybody I ever knew. And somebody responded and said the only other guy I think might be in contention is Shaquille O'Neal.
Probably so.
Go to the general and save some time.
Dude, Shaq, man. Shaq attack.
Shaq. That's a great pick, man. That's a great pick.
He went back, like when he went back to school, he went back to LSU. Yeah. Like after he was in the NBA, he went get a couple of different degrees, and
now he's like a sheriff. He's all
he's DJ. My favorite videos are him at these like festivals.
He did Shaq through the video game. He did Fushnickens. He sung with Fushnickens.
Oh my god, so many things. I love it. That's a great pick. That is
Jack's a good guy, man.
Good pick. All right. I get back-to-back picks now. It's going to be really hard for me to just do not just musicians because it was so hard for me to just make my top four, my four most childhood hero musicians. So I'm going to mention some here. This guy may be surprised that I'm putting him over some of these other ones, but you put him in the short that we put out there. I'm going with Mr. Dave Grohl. Give me Dave Grohl as this guy. Foo Fighters, Nirvana, obviously, even Queens of the Stone Age drumming and some different side acts and things like that. The guy's amazing. I love the fact that, and this is just music nerd stuff, but as a drummer, he writes guitar riffs like a drum beat. Like, so if you listen to Everlong, it's the is like a drum beat. It's so interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna go with Dave Grohl for that one. And then since I get back-to-back picks, I'm going to pick the one that I think might have gotten picked here. I'm going to go to the wrestling game, and I'm going to Mark Calloway. I'm going to the dead man himself. Give me Undertaker. He's going to be my guy here. He's my favorite wrestler
too, but I'm not going there. That's still too old for me, so I'm not going to go there. But it might have been picked by my man down there because he's a wrestling fan. But also, I'm going to stay in wrestling as well. I'm going back to my childhood. I wouldn't consider this guy my hero anymore because of just what ended up happening with his life. But back then, he was wrestling for me.
Don't say the Canadian.
I'm going with Ultimate Warrior, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, Ultimate Warrior. Dude, that was the wrestling buddy I had was Ultimate Warrior, bro.
Yeah, I think everybody had a wrestling buddy.
Bro, yeah. Ultimate Warrior was what made wrestling for me like take off, man. Yeah.
His WCW career was left much to be desired.
Yeah. But did you see the top four thing I sent you today? Andy? I sent you 4 Rushmores in wrestling, and one of them was Eric Bischoff's WCW Rushmore of heels and villains. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, you get back-to-back picks.
All right, so back-to-back, I'll keep this one in wrestling.
Oh, nice.
I was more of a WWE guy than a WCW. However, but
yes,
yeah. Oh,
right there.
Also, okay, so listen, if I'm being honest, I think we just named my mount. I mean, like, we just did it. I think that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a great pick. All right, one more pick now, Dustin.
All right, so next pick, I'm gonna jump into video games with this one, which this is one of my all-time favorite video games. And yeah, so we're gonna go with Liu Kang.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat.
Wow.
I love that, dude.
It was ba-da-da-da-da-da, La Bamba. La Bamba. Dude, Liu Kang.
That's interesting, though, that he's the guy.
The best interpretation of any Mortal Kombat character in that original movie was Liu Kang. I loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Hey,
speaking of Mortal Kombat, I have to look at, did the bottom shelf or did they talk about Annihilation? Because that movie is
it's a little rough. It was a little rough. Hey, look, I'm gonna.
You're good.
This is kind of like drafting tight ends and kickers in fantasy football. What we're doing, you're going on a trend. I'll hang out in the video game world, and I'm gonna land who I think is my favorite hero of all time. And I'm going with none other than Link from Legend of Zelda.
Nice.
That was on my list.
Yeah. All right,
Legend
cool.
of Zelda.
Well, if we're using the draft analogy, I'm going for value right here. I'm going for not necessarily need, but best available.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm going here. I'm not buying into the trend of going video game. In fact, I'm going to do this whole night without even throwing a video. I guess you can put Gambit. He's been in video games, but anyway.
Yeah.
And Kiss has been in video games too. They were in Tony Hawk. Remember that? So I'm going to go with.
I have a feeling Kiss has been in more than one video.
Probably so.
They had a Scooby Doo one. They had like all kinds of They had a few different.
Brett Favre's been in a video game for sure.
He was quarterback club 99.
A few of them.
So I'm going to go with TV realm, but not necessarily. I mean, he was on TV for sure, but you'll get it when I say this. I'm going to go with. He's kind of represented in my tattoo that I got right here. I'm going with Jim Henson.
Oh,
Jim Henson for my pick because of
Dave
Dave
mentioned him.
Yes.
I had him in my had him in my list.
Yeah, so Jim Henson, Fraggle Rock, Muppets, Sesame, all that kind of stuff.
Please say it.
Was just what?
Oh, no Labyrinth.
Dark Crystal.
Oh well, yeah. So yeah, no, I didn't know what you were asking me to say. Yeah, so. Those things, what was the wasn't he on a show or like a competitive show that you've talked about before, Kirk? What was the name of the show?
First episode ever. When,
Name of the show,
second. It was second. Was it second?
Yeah.
But it was Jim Henson's. Now it's.
It was like puppeting. Like, wasn't it something like that? It was like
yes,
something.
It was called. Anyway, you won a contract with Jim Henson. It was awesome.
Yeah. So I love Jim Henson. I got to go with that. And then I'm just gonna do it because I can't. I have to have more musicians mentioned than anything else just because of my own life. When it comes to playing drums, I mean, I could go one way or the other with this, but who I styled there's two guys. One of them I styled my play after a little bit more because the other one felt physically impossible to style it after. And then I realized that this guy was pretty difficult in his own right, but I'm going to go with my favorite of all time from Led Zeppelin, John Bonham. Not that I want to be like him from a role model standpoint because he died a premature death because of a horrible lifestyle. But from a drumming standpoint, this guy, you listen to him today and you hear things in Kirk. We've watched videos of like what makes John Bonham so. And
I don't even understand it. And you try to explain it several times.
And I'm not going to try to, but there are just things that he does that only John Bonham did, and you hear other people playing, you're like, that's Bonham, or that he's taken Bonham.
That's a Bonham lick.
That's a Bonham lick, yeah, for sure. And anyway, so John Bonham.
I've been around India enough to know what that is. Yeah. It's a good pick, man. I'm excited, and I'm actually shocked that it was this long to see a drum. But yeah, I'm going with this one, and this is a culmination. So I hope you can understand and feel where I'm going with this, because this hero isn't just for his television show. This hero is for the generation of television shows. So it's kind of like that guy. And he was my favorite hero of that. What?
He's the figurehead. He's the guy.
To me, he was. To me. And I didn't even think I have him on a mountain for my cartoons, but I'm going with Prince Adam, He-Man.
Really?
100%, bro. He-Man, dude, as far as a hero goes, dude, I love the whole story of him just being kind of weird and goofy and still like being like Incredible Hulk. Like he was like, it was the funniest Clark Kent to Superman type thing. You like, how could somebody not, are you kidding me? And then He-Man, bro, as a hero, 80s cartoons. 80s cartoons, bro. Yeah, whole nine. Going He-Man.
My favorite thing about He-Man is the Four Non Blondes techno version that has him in it. What's going on? It's my favorite He-Man thing.
So, wait, real quick. There's a guy I watch. He's a speed runner, and his name just slipped my brain. One of the reasons I started even watching YouTube was when I started watching him. Whenever he beats a game and breaks the record, he plays that meme over and over like a billion times. Gosh, what is his name? I haven't watched it in so long. Anyways, yeah, Zach, he's definitely the best. Yeah, I mean, there's so many cartoons. I could have picked any of them, but what I'm saying is 80s cartoons. Yeah.
Hey, he was the first. He was the first guy to use pronouns as his name. He was he.
He and me.
She-Ra.
And She-Ra.
She-Ra. She-Ra. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
All right.
All right, Dustin, finish us off. Let's go home.
All right, so I'm gonna finish this off, and I tell you what, I had this one written down, but I chose not to pick music. But I'll go ahead and pull this from Andy over here. So, guitar player that, you know, when I first got my first electric guitar, of who I was pretending to be, and I learned how to play their complete first album. I'm gonna have to go with Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello.
Oh, nice.
He may not have been the fastest, but he is definitely the most technical. And what he comes out with, it's just riffs that just make you move. So
I don't know if I had him as my George or my Link, but it was him and Les Claypool.
Yeah.
And then Andy, I think you took Flea, right?
Well, you're talking guitar, not bass.
I mean, bassist.
Well, yeah, no. You said Tom Morello, right?
Tom Morello. Yeah, he's a guitar player. Yeah.
Yeah,
the guitar. I had him too.
You did put Tom Morello in your top 4 for sure.
I did, for real, 100%.
He's the most. If you put, and there's some distinguishable guitarists out there, but I think that if you gave me a lineup of guitarists and you just had audio, the one that I can name the quickest just from hearing a split second of them playing is Tom Morello.
Yeah,
it doesn't take long to. That's Tom.
Yeah,
that's Tom. That's easy.
And Adam Jones
he has his most unique style.
Yeah. He makes it talk, dude. It talks.
Yeah, he does things that you just.
I appreciate that pick. Rage Against the Machine is one of my favorite bands of all time, if not the favorite. So hey man, that's our show for today. I got a couple things I want to share before we head on out. One, thank you, Dustin, for being here.
Absolutely, man.
I've got a laundry list of pops that I want, but I don't have a bank account to purchase them all. Anytime, listen, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Anytime you come across a Chief, a Yankee, or any New Orleans sports guy, shoot me a message. I'll probably
okay.
But yeah, Yankees, Chiefs, any sports. Yeah, and look, Andy, he has a ton of that he's going to pick up for you. But before we go, we got some new folks kind of hanging around. You're going to be at St. Tammany Collectors Con. You're going to be at Louisiana RetroCon. You're going to be at Pelicon. What's the next thing that you've got going on Whatnot, or what are some things where the people can find you, kind of check out what you got?
Yeah, kind of the next thing coming up. We're still kind of on the fence with Whatnot. Whatnot's a little bit more time consuming than what we have right now, but not that I have time to do this, but we're on Facebook, Instagram. I occasionally post TikToks to try to get into that space, and Keith and I have talked about kind of doing our own little TED talk on YouTube. Just
hey,
kind of
look, you do a podcast, and we're there.
Yeah,
we're there.
So we've been discussing it, but yeah, as of right now, just kind of hitting the cons. But man, once again, if there's anything you guys need, just hit me up.
Tell them your like website or your like handle so they can find you.
Yeah, so it's Bayou Geek Collectibles. On Facebook, Instagram, it's the same thing. I think on TikTok we're Bayou Geek. It's just Bayou Geek. But yeah, Bayou Geek Collectibles, and message me. And even if it's something that I don't have, I'll go find it for you. And I mean, look, that Sergeant Slaughter that you wanted, I mean, I didn't even make a dime off of it, just because it's like, if it's something, that my friends are looking for, I'm not in this to really make money. I'm in this to kind of help, just to help people fill their collections.
So if you're not to put many things on you, but I'm looking for Gambit, like I said, but anything 90s Nickelodeon is
I got a bunch. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff. We'll have a lot.
Rugrats.
Yeah, I got Rugrats. I think we might have sold them, but we had the entire Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs set. I think I have a lot. I may have some more of those. So who's gonna be at which con?
We'll both be at the con.
We'll both be at both of them. It's
okay.
Just Andy can't stay for Sunday.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So Saturdays for sure.
So Louisiana RetroCon, we're just gonna bring a mix of everything. I've been trying to kind of theme and leave it to kind of 3 or 4 different, like STCC will probably have a lot of music, wrestling.
Hey, I have one I definitely want, and I think you guys picked it up. And I definitely want. I want that Jason Kelsey one.
I have it. I have some. That to me, that is one of the greatest pops they've
100%. I need that in my collection.
Okay.
Yeah. And I need that. I need that for sure. Well, look, guys, follow Bayou Geek Collectibles everywhere. If you come to the con, hey, look. By the way, if you have one that you want, just like what we're doing, send him a message. He'll ship, man. He'll do that kind of stuff and let us know. We plan on picking up a couple more pops and doing some giveaways also. So just be on the lookout, man. Be on the lookout. So let's move on real quick. So next things for us, we have one more episode of Nostalgia, and Dan jumped in here for a little bit. He's new to the show. You watched his first show last week. He's going to do comics with us. He is a comic guy. He's got some super expensive stuff. He is a guy in California that is friends with the Spine Ticks world and all of our friends over that way. Dan's always on Spine Ticks show, but he's on a couple other comic shows. Great guy. He's been in radio. He'll be on Monday night. This is a rare Monday night. We haven't done a Monday in a long time. We used to do pre-records and release them on Monday. So come and check us out Monday. But we just finished booking. And look, I'm going to throw it up. I'm not going to read them all. I'm going to let you see them for a second. But we have filled up, and I know Zach was just in here. We have filled up our list for sports. And here it is. So here's September. You've seen Who Dat Pat in here. The other guys you've seen before. Chris Gordy is a good friend of mine from back in the day. There's some cool little topics. And here's some more. You saw Zach and Boggs jumped in. These are our sports episodes. If you guys want to jump into doing food with us, send us a message. This is kind of how I do it, and you probably I start writing down everybody's names and getting that. What's up, Pickin' Preacher? And I'm about to say Pickin' Preacher's name right here because I have this list right here of all the video game guys that I've contacted and messaged that have either been on our show or have that we want back on, and they've said, yeah, give me a shout. So here they are. And I usually try and do them by memory, but I wrote them down this time. So here we go. We're going to have Retro Wolf. We're going to have Pac-Man Case. We're going to have Square Pegs. We're going to have Mort's Garage, Retro Cart Collector, Retro Gaming Pandemic, potentially. We messaged with them. RNG Gamer, Saturn Steve, Picking Preacher, Manny's Arcade, Retro Rob, Iowa Gaming Dad, the Super Retro Force, Farrell's Inferno, Rad Bash, and Bryce. All messages, including Bill Keys, have messaged us and saying they either want to be on the show, we want to be on the show. So this is what I'm thinking. We're going to probably combine a bunch and do some really cool stuff that's going to fit some of those guys. These guys are all big time in the video game world. Go check out all those guys for sure. That's our video game. So we have a little pocket of window and food that we're trying to book. If you want to be on, let's jump on it. And then after video games, it's your guys, man. Bayou Geek, you want to come back for music? You're welcome. But music will start up, and I already have my first music guest who couldn't make it for sports. Maiden will be on for music for sure. And then we even got a movie one booked with Pater from one of the Christian places that we're at. So we're already booking all the way to May. I mean, it's crazy. But so it's time to head out, man. We're at 2:20 and we're actually 30 minutes later than usual. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Dustin. Keith, I'm sure you're watching the show and picking back up if you didn't get a chance. We want you back on the next time. We totally missed out on having you. Keith, if you're watching, make sure you put your top 4 in the comments that you had so that we can all check. Keith was the other guest. Andy, you got anything you want to tell everybody before we go to bed?
Well, I love you guys. You're all amazing. Everybody who hung out there and was in the chat and everything. It's just been a blast. Dustin, again, like we've already said, man, it's been a great having you on here.
Yeah,
we will be stopping by your booth multiple times, I'm sure, come September and November, and love hanging out with you. Probably getting some more shorts out there, and it's just gonna be a blast, man. So, hey, let's go ahead and say goodnight like we always do. This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4
and nothing more.
Peace.